Well, hello there, everybody. I am Robert Slavinsky, your host for this evening. I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody's watching right now, so that's all right. I'm used to that right now. We got to get these live numbers back up. I used to have at least a handful of people watching whenever I went live, but anymore, not so much. But that is okay, because I'm going to count on all the people that watch this after the fact. That's what I'm going to count on. So how are you all doing today? Colton is not with me. I don't know if he will be joining later or not. He, I believe, got stuck at work and has had to work most of the day. So that is unfortunate for him and for me. I got to do this on my own. It's been a while. But before we get into everything, please head over to Spoilerverse.com. Spoilerverse.com is where you're going to find a plethora of content from the Spoilerverse, whether it is spoiler country. Wow, my glasses just look so crooked sometimes. All right, that looks better. Okay, whether it's spoiler country, narrative gunslingers, what have you, all that jazz, head over to spoilerverse.com for so many great podcasts and more. So please check that out. But I hope everybody's doing well. I know that the past couple weeks have been a bit hectic when it comes to some comic book superhero nerdiness news. We got a lot of information with Venom. The Venom movie, Venom 2, was shown, and a bunch of people got a chance to see it. So, of course, we're getting some leaks and some spoilers out there, some big news in that regard. We had a trailer for Hawkeye drop. We had a couple of episodes of What If since I was last on, or at least one episode of What If since I was last on. And bunch of other stuff's going on as well. We got some big news about the Zack Snyder's Justice League. That movie absolutely decimated in the Blu-ray sales and the HD sales. So what does that mean? And we're going to get into that a bit later. But first, let's talk about Miss Marvel. I want to talk about Miss Marvel. Now, for those of you who don't know, Miss Marvel is a Marvel character. She has a show coming out on Disney Plus. It is her character's name is Kamala Kane. And in the comics, she's technically an Inhuman. I know that the MCU, the cinematic universe aspect, and the whole Inhuman side of things has kind of drifted away. They don't really touch on that, or they haven't since Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in that horrendous Inhuman show. But that is who Kamala Kane is. She is an Inhuman in the comics. I don't know if they're going to go that route in the Disney Plus show that's coming out soon, but she is getting a show, if you were not aware. Now, that show was originally slated to come out before the end of 2021. And it looked like we were going to have a jam-packed full year of Marvel content on Disney Plus. I didn't think we were going to have any breaks at all. I figured it was going to go WandaVision, then Falcon and Winter Soldier, then Loki, then Miss Marvel, then Hawkeye, and so on and so forth. It didn't quite work out that way, unfortunately. However, from what I've seen from a couple of people that I did talk to, it does seem like Miss Marvel, they are eyeing Miss Marvel to come out in February of 2022. Now, it kind of makes sense because we've noticed with Disney Plus, they don't like to overlap their big tentpole franchise shows. And what I mean by overlap, they don't have them going on at the same time. In November, we have Hawkeye. Hawkeye comes out the end of November. That's going to run all the way up through December. Now, December is supposedly when we're supposed to get the Book of Boba Fett. That's supposed to come out towards the end of December. So, Hawkeye right into Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett's probably going to be at least a month and a half long show, which then leads us into February to getting Miss Marvel. So for those of you who are excited and wanting to see Miss Marvel, it's coming. It's coming very soon. Maybe not soon enough, but it is coming. So make sure you keep on the lookout for that. I'm going to touch on the Hawkeye trailer a little bit. I did watch it. I'm not going to pull it up here, but I am going to talk about it a little bit. The Hawkeye trailer, I'm not going to say I was underwhelmed with it, but I'm also not going to say it made me overly excited for this show. This is much like Black Widow. I feel it's 10 years too late for something like this to follow and have a standalone project or series or movie or whatever, what have you, on a character like this. Hawkeye, Clint Barnes, I really enjoyed his character in the MCU. Granted, he did absolutely nothing most of the time, but he was an enjoyable character. I do like Jeremy Renner as an actor, so I think it really works him as Hawkeye. But he didn't have a lot to work with in the 10, 11 years that he was part of the MCU. So them giving him a show right now, which by all accounts is supposedly supposed to end his tenure as the Hawkeye or his place in the MCU, I think is kind of, I don't know. I don't think it's very fitting. I just don't feel like his story really had a chance to evolve or adapt or build like it should have, or how we wanted it to within the MCU. That's a little unfortunate. Now, I do think that introducing a new character, I think is going to be interesting. The trailer, again, it didn't overly underwhelm me. It's interesting enough. I like the Christmas time, I guess. It really feels like a Shane Black film. Shane Black, who directed and wrote Iron Man 3. He also did movies, The Good Guys, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It was a writer for the original Lethal Weapon. And if you take a look at almost all those movies, they all have one thing in common. They all take place at Christmas time. And I do really think that'll be a cool aesthetic to this show. But is it just a random backdrop? Is there a bigger reason for it to take place during Christmas? And is it going to be the trailer really hung on the joke side of things? And I know that's over multiple episodes that they are showing clips of, but that's my worry. And if you watch my show, if you watch me, if you know me, you know that I don't mind the jokiness of the Marvel films and the Marvel properties. It's just sometimes I kind of wish they would back off just a little bit, just a little, not too much, but I sometimes feel it's a little too much for my taste, at least. But hey, they're a $1 billion company. They've made billions of dollars at this point. So who am I to say anything, right? Right. Speaking of $1 billion franchises, not really, but I'm going to get into things here. I didn't want to focus too long on anything that isn't having to do with the bulk of what I wanted to talk about here, because for the past few weeks, I've kind of stayed away from DC discussion. I wanted to kind of switch it up over the last few weeks and kind of take a breather from DC. DC, to me, it's been causing me a lot of anxiety. I mean, the fandom to what has been announced, what hasn't been announced. There's just so much going on that I sit there and I just get upset because of what could have been an excellent arc within the DC films, and they just let it go. They mishandled it. They just did their own thing, and it just bothers me to no end. But I'm hoping that all of you, at least, have been, paying attention to my show still, but also not getting as upset and anxious as I have. There's been a couple interesting articles and developments over the last week or so that really starting to, I don't want to say give us hope, but really open our eyes and not just help us understand what has been going on with the Snyderverse, but also hopefully it's helping Warner Brothers and Warner Media and then Discovery, Zaslav over there. Hopefully it's showing them and getting them to understand what has happened and what could be in regards to DC films and the DC multiverse, really. So the first thing I do want to touch on here is release the Ayer Cut. Now, it's crazy because for what? Oh man, what was it? Months. We had like nothing in regards to the Ayer Cut. And David Ayer has been very hush-hush. He hasn't said much of anything on his social medias. He really hasn't said much of anything anywhere. And then the other day, he goes and I didn't save it, but he goes and posts a picture or two from his cut of Suicide Squad. And I got one here. Let's see if I can share this screen for you. So we got this here. And it's of the Joker. And we remember this scene from the Suicide Squad film, but it's of the Joker. And he's just in that room. And that's where all the knives and guns were all around him. But he's holding a gun to his chin, looking up. And it seems that he's crying or in anguish or upset about something. It was a really interesting picture. I really like that. Let's see. And then we got this one here of the goat head. And that's another really, really, really cool picture that, again, something that we really didn't see much of or at all in the Suicide Squad movie that came out. Now, this has put a lot of people thinking, they really are now thinking, oh, we're getting the Ayer Cut. It's inevitable. You know, my boy Sil Abdul, he's over there saying, look, it's inevitable at this point. You really think we're not going to get it at this point? You have some other people saying, oh, it's definitely happening. And obviously we haven't had any solid evidence or even word or confirmation that it's coming from anybody official. But the more that David shares, you start to see that he's kind of following in the footsteps that Zack Snyder was doing back with the release of Snyder Cut movement. And he would just give little teases and little things that he knew that weren't in the movie. Ayer's kind of doing the same thing here. Now, could it mean that we're getting the cut? I don't know. At this point, it's hard to say. You know, you take a look at me and my channel a year ago, and you take a look at everything and everybody I talked to back then, it seemed like it was inevitable. It really did. It seemed like it was coming. It's coming. And it was hard to fathom that we weren't going to get it because of the massive success that the Snyder Cut movement became. I mean, it was a huge, huge success, that movement. Remember? So the fact that we got to this point and we still don't have any confirmation that there's an Ayer Cut coming. We know there is an Ayer Cut. That's the big difference. Is David Ayer has completely come out and said, yes, I have a cut of the film. I have a cut that is mine, that is not the same as what was on or what was seen in theaters and what has come out on home video. He 100% has admitted that. So that's much different than what Zack and what we went through with the Snyder Cut, because there's a time when, we had no idea whether there was a Snyder Cut or not. And even Zack himself was playing very coy and saying, oh, there's a cut of the film. There's this, I have a cut or stuff like that. And it wasn't exactly what we thought. The difference between the two is David Ayer has almost an entire movie shot, edited, for the most part, ready to go. So that's where the big difference lies. Do I think we're going to get it? I do. And I actually am looking forward to the upcoming DC fandom, because I think there are going to be a few surprises this year. I think that they are going to try and get some of the fans back in good graces, because I think that they lost a lot of fans over the last year and a half because of the mishandling of promotion of Zack Snyder's Justice League and mishandling the release and mishandling almost all of that. Everything that encapsulates what the Snyder Cut was. It kind of, it really just, what's the best way to put it? the Snyder Cut. I just say the Ayer Cut, the Snyder Cut. They just really they need to. They just need to get the fans back in good graces. That's really all it comes down to. I don't know what else to say or how else to say it at all. Now, do I think that one of the surprises would be the Ayer Cut? I hope so, and I think it could be. I'm not saying 100% definite yes, but I really think it could be, and I think it would be in the best interest of Warner right now to do something like that for an HBO Max release. They had a big event in 2021 with Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max. They need to get another big event for 2022, something that DC fans can truly look forward to, that is a big event. And I think David Ayer's Suicide Squad would be something like that. It would be something that they could build up to and have hype surrounding it, because we do know that Warner Brothers will not be releasing all their theatrical films day and date like they did over 2021. Now, the day and date stuff is done after 2021. So they're going to have some content. They're going to have some guaranteed content coming out every month. And the David Ayer Suicide Squad would be a great thing to have, and just do it in March. Just do it in March like they had Zack Snyder's Justice League. Have that March, and maybe try and figure out a way to really hype up the fans for that. And you would have, remember, December, January, February, 4 or 5 months to really hype up fans and get them excited again for DC films and DC properties, because I think that's a big deal. And that's not to say that people aren't excited and not a big fan of DC films or the properties right now, but where is all the excitement at? It's not in the right direction. And me saying that they need to release the Ayer Cut and that they should release the Ayer Cut still isn't going to put them in the right direction. And I understand that. I truly do. And I'm somebody who is a diehard Snyder fan and Snyderverse fan. I want to see them continue that universe. But we do know that there is a massive fan base that wants to see the Snyderverse continue. Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Blu-ray, the home release, just released a couple weeks ago. And it released in the United States. I think that's it. I don't know if it released anywhere else. I know the United States, though. I know other places it has already. But even then, in the first week that Justice League was released on home video, it outsold the number 2 DVD, or Blu-ray. So they come out and they do these rankings. Okay, the number 1 Blu-ray selling for this week was Zack Snyder's Justice League. The number 2 was some horrible horror film, obviously, but all horror films are horrible. But the thing is, the Snyder Cut outsold the number 2 most sold home video 5-1. 5-1. That's insane. Not to mention that Zack Snyder's Justice League is on HBO Max. Still, it's not going away anytime soon. So the fact that it sold that much, look, I got my copy right here. I got it. You have yours? But the fact that it sold that much is just insane to me to think. Because to Warner, this is a property that was dead. This was a universe that they don't want to continue, that they don't feel is viable or is a viable option for them. Yet, hundreds of thousands of these were sold. Walmarts were sold out. Best Buys were sold out. Then we have to look at the whole thing that we had these pop figures release, and they had these exclusives on the DC shop. They were supposed to ship in August, but because of the demand, because of how many were ordered, they're delayed. The Snyderverse is still a viable option for Warner Brothers. It's just, how do they want to continue? And do they want to continue? But the Snyderverse, or the Snyder Cut, Zack Snyder's Justice League home video Blu-ray. Absolutely. Absolutely is a big reason why. Big reason why we can now see how viable it is. But does Warner Brother notice it? And a lot of people are sitting there talking about Zaslav and Discovery, and I get that. They're probably not going to greenlight anything until the merger is complete, where Discovery basically takes over the Warner Brothers properties. And I get that. So yes, Zaslav needs to see this. But, come on. It's to a point where if some of these people in Warner Brothers want to keep their job, they're going to have to make some smart decisions between now and the merger completion. And even if they have it up on the board saying, we want to do this, we need to talk to Zack, we need to do this, but we have to wait till the merger's over, that would be going a long way than where we were at a year ago. Now, I kind of want to bring this up before I get into everything else. There's this article that came out on Forbes just 3, 4, 5 days ago, something like that, 5 days ago. Top 5 HBO Max Snyderverse spinoffs Warner Brothers Discovery should make. Now, I don't want to talk about that aspect of the article because he does make a good point on a lot of things. And I've said this a lot, and actually we're going to get into that near the end of the show here, but I don't want to touch on that first. First, what I want to touch on is, let's see. See, I shouldn't have scrolled up. I'm ridiculous, you know? I know many fans promote the idea of restoring the Snyderverse. And while most simply mean to specifically finish his Justice League story arc with a sequel, a lot of those fans literally mean they want the rest of the upcoming DCEU plans scrapped in favor of erasing the changes to the timeline thus far and reverting back to some amorphous original plans for films. The problem is the latter notion is based on vague and inaccurate assumptions about what is or isn't consistent with Snyder's original plans, preferences, and what exactly defines his approach to the DCEU. It's also an unrealistic demand that treats other fans and audiences as if their own different preferences or expectations don't matter and are worth erasing. The studio isn't going to cancel all of their future plans, eliminate existing films that some fans dislike, and revert everything back to what it was in the months right after Batman vs. Superman hit theaters. This isn't like the movement to release a Snyder Cut or release the Ayer Cut, where a film already exists and with a bit of work could be ready and released to expand the content library of DC films and live up to the filmmaker's true vision. The Snyder Cut was on a shelf. A separate version had already been released theatrically, so spending a few tens of millions of dollars for Snyder to do an expanded, completed version of his cut was worthwhile and much easier thing to accomplish. That's far different from expecting a studio to scrap all their multi-year plans and contracts, ask the vastly large mainstream public to ignore the DC films of the past 5 years, invest everything in different slate of films that would now need to be remade from scratch again. Already, a big portion of the fan base who supported releasing the Snyder Cut has fumbled things. A lot of goodwill was established, and the Snyder Cut was released. And there was a moment when the movement could have shifted into support mode for HBO Max and proven that by giving this movement what it desires, the studio wins subscribers and supporters who will cheerlead the rest of the slate. Sometimes you have to be a team player to get more time on the field. And this was an obvious, easy call for anyone who has done this sort of thing before. We might already have some Snyderverse spin-offs in the fan base we might already have Snyderverse spin-offs if the fan base had played things smarter and rallied, making it clear that DC films and shows had the potential to add millions of cheering, loyal fans who will be as eager at promoting other projects as they were at promoting the Snyder Cut. Think about what a studio would do for that kind of fan base, as opposed to how studios react when a movement turns against them and makes increasing demands that include a lot of impossibilities. So I really want people to understand something here. And I hate that it comes to this. And I actually got called out the other day on Twitter, and I was kind of upset about it. Not because I got called out, because I'm all for people calling me out and, having a good debate or discussion. I was a little upset because this person questioned my dedication and my passion for the Snyderverse. For the last year, you go back and take a look at my channel, you take a look at our podcast, I have championed the Snyder Cut and the Snyderverse nonstop. I was trying to get information for all of you fans and confirm it on what we were getting, when we were getting it, how we were getting it. The problem is these people, the people out there who are, it's what we want or nothing at all. They're the ones that actually have really hurt this fan base and this movement. I hashtag restore the Snyderverse constantly, all the time. But hashtagging isn't enough. And I'm not saying that's enough. Because to have a fan base that is strong enough to push a movie studio to do something vast, grand, huge, like release a cut of the movie that was never seen. This thing that was insane, that a movement that started with one simple hashtag grew to becoming something so amazing and raising money for AFSP and promoting a cut and artistic integrity. And it's amazing. I will never take that away from anybody who rightfully and properly supported the release of Snyder Cut movement. But there are a faction of these fans who, for lack of a better term, are toxic. And the Forbes article does a really good job in not using that word. And I give him credit for not using that word, because people get upset. People will, boom, shoot off immediately. And I think that's what happened with me. I think I used the word toxic, so people get all upset and like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. But I do know what I'm talking about, because this article is dead on. There's nothing that is said in this article that is not correct. Since the Snyder Cut was announced, there was many discussions and talks. Are they going to expand the DCEU? Are they going to continue? Are we going to get Justice League 2, Justice League 3? Are we going to get Batfleck? Are we going to get this? Are we going to get that? And that was what people started talking about. And this Restore the Snyderverse became more of a promotion at what he said in this article here. Ignore all this other stuff that DC's been doing. Shazam, Aquaman, Shazam 2, Flash, Birds of Prey, The Suicide Squad, The Batman. Ignore all that. We don't want that. Cancel all that. Scrap all that. Give us this here. And that is what the movement sort of became. I know that was not the intention. You can go back months on my channel and you will see I made a diagram and it showed you can have those movies. You can have all those movies that they're doing right now, but have a little branch. Put a little branch that becomes the Snyderverse, a multiverse of sorts. It's a great idea, but there are a lot of issues and problems that we run into in regards to the Snyderverse. One of the big issues, and he says it in this article. Let's see. Where's it at? I can't find where he said it. But canceling contracts and movies, that's not in the best interest of a studio. I understand 2016, things changed big time. But you have to realize, whether you like Hamada now or not, Hamada was not in charge back then. He was not in charge in 2016. This is a different regime. So when those changes were made in 2016, they came in and they made their plans, and they are pushing forward with those plans. You cannot expect them to go back 7 years, 6, 7 years back and go from there. You can't expect them to do that. Again, you can hate Hamada. You can hate Toby Emmerich. You can hate Jeff Johns. You can hate whomever you want to hate. That's fine. But you need to understand the business side of things. And don't take this as me sitting here being a Warner Brothers apologetic or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I want people to understand is, from a business standpoint, they can't just cancel all those things, all those contracts, everything like that. They just can't do it. Oh, but they did that with Snyder. Not exactly. Yes and no, they did that. Because don't forget, as far as what we know, Snyder is the one that stepped down. While, yes, he was most likely pushed out, he stepped down under a different regime. That's a big thing you have to remember. Now, can and will the Snyderverse be restored? Now, like it or not, I'm going to continue on this article a little bit here. Like it or not, angry or not, these things are true. I can tell you point blank that some folks at the studio who had come to support the movement and who expected continuation of the Snyderverse elements via HBO Max have soured on the potential precisely because of how a large portion of the fans have reacted in the aftermath of the Snyder Cut release. It doesn't matter if you agree or not. It doesn't matter what reasons or excuses are offered. The bottom line is you either want to really help get more content made, or you think expressing anger and demands is more important, and for some, more fun than really getting anything done at this point. 100% agree. I could not agree more with that statement there. I could not agree more. The anger, the toxicity, and I'm using that word. I know he doesn't use it, but I'm using it. The toxicity, the bullying that goes on within the fandom has made me somebody who, while yes, I'm not going to say I started when the Snyder Cut movement began, but I came on board not long after. And someone like me who pushed and fought and made an outlet, not saying that there weren't other outlets available, but I made an outlet for people to come, to talk, to explore, to understand the Snyder Cut and to get excited and help promote the movement. For us, for people like that to come at me and say, you're wrong. You don't have the passion. You just want to cause a divide instead of giving any ideas on how to make it better. Well, here's the thing. I have tried to give ideas on how to make it better. And there's one simple one. Stop being assholes. That is a huge one right there. Just stop being assholes. I say it. People want to believe, I'm not going to go see Flash. I'm not going to see the Suicide Squad. I'm not going to see this. I'm not going to see that. Okay. That's your prerogative. More power to you. But keep in mind, the success or failure of those movies will not determine if the Snyderverse gets restored. I know it's hard to think that way because it always comes down to money. And you're right. But there's a big but. They went the Snyder Cut route twice. That's something that people don't, that they forget. Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, try one. Justice League is whenever it ended. Then we had a few movies. And then again, boom, they tried Snyderverse again. The second time, it was a big success. But the fans did not show the support for Warner Brothers to say thank you. There was no thank you ever given. And that was a slap in the face to Warner Brothers. And I get it. You want to sit there and believe and say, well, it was Jason Kilar. He's the one that made it happen. It was Warner Media, not Warner Brothers. It was this, it was that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There was not enough thank you for that because it was unprecedented what happened. And this article makes a damn good point in making that understood. And I hope you've all read it. I hope you have taken the time to sit down and read this article and really read it, because there's a lot of people over on the social medias right now who disagree with this article and are coming in and coming at the author, the writer of this article, saying how wrong he is. And it's just, he's not. And this is coming from a diehard Snyderverse fan, for somebody who wants nothing more than to see Snyder finish his vision. So will the Snyderverse be restored? Will it? Well, it depends on all of us, me included. We have to stop this my way or nothing. We got to stop this. Well, we want the Snyderverse, but only if it's live action, 17 movies, this and that, blah, blah, blah. We got to stop that crap. I'm not even going to say it depends on what Snyder wants. Because yes, it does depend on what Snyder wants. But we can't take for granted what's going on in his career right now. His career has had a resurgence. And it just so happens that Warner Brothers decided to get out of the Zack Snyder camp right as that resurgence began. Netflix, on the other hand, has taken him and said, let's go. Let's do it. What can we do? What can we do to make you happy, Zack? Because you're going to make us money. You're going to make us happy at Netflix. So he did Army of the Dead. He helped produce and create Army of Thieves. He's got an Army of Dead animated movie or show. I can't remember what it is coming up. He's got another animated project lined up. He's got Rebel Moon lined up. And now Army of the Dead 2. That's a lot of stuff that he has on his plate right now. 3 to 4 years worth of things. So while I agree, if Zack's desires are important, but none of us, we don't know what his intentions are. If they come to him and they say, hey, Zack, we want you to make Justice League 2. But in your universe, we got our own thing over here. We want you to finish your arc. If he goes, well, guys, look, I'm really busy. I need Jason. I need Ezra. I need Gal. I need Henry. I need Ben. I need Ray. Plus whoever else he wants to throw in there. Well, by that time, Ben is in his mid to late 50s. Gal has finished Wonder Woman 3, probably moving on with her career. Henry Cavill still has his cape and everything hanging in the closet. Nobody wants to call him up. Ezra's making Flash 2. Ray Fisher doing his own thing. And Jason Momoa is probably on making Aquaman 3. Their contracts have either expired, have gone by, or they're chock full because they are filmmakers as well. They're not going to sit around and wait for the phone call to finish the Snyderverse. So the longer it goes on, something I've said so many times before, the longer it goes on, the less likely it is to be coming out in a way that we want it to. But if Zack came and he said, yeah, let's do it. Let's see if we can get the band back together. If they can get the band back together, it's happening. It is happening. We'll see it happen. He may have to make some adjustments due to age, due to time, due to whatever it is, but it'll happen. Now, let's take a look and see if he comes and he goes, look, my schedule's too busy. Or the band, we can't work it out. They're too busy. Well, what happens then? Because, yeah, he wants to do it, but he's got movies on the horizon. He's got deals he's made with Netflix or other companies. Ben, Gal, Jason, all of them have their own things going on. So what's an alternative? Well, one of the alternatives is, as they were saying in this article, and that's further up, but doing it in animated form. which is brilliant in a way, because you can finish the arc that way and build off of it as well. Zack has talked many times in many forms about how he would love to see like an Under the Red Hood type of story in his universe. You can do that in animation. Justice League, Man of Steel BVS and Justice League were all the starting point. Boom, it flew off. David Ayer Suicide Squad as well. Why the hell not? You then do animation for the rest. Whether it's 4 movies, 2 movies, 1 movie, whatever it may be. Half the cost, more than or less than half the cost. You're looking at a $300 million movie to continue in live action. Maybe if you're lucky, $100 million, maybe $100 million for a season of like 8 to 10 episodes, or, you know, just depending on how he wants to do it. But you're looking at millions of dollars there, as opposed to like 50 million for an animation. Then you take a look at the hype that can come out of it, the money that Warner Discovery can get from HBO Max subscribers. It's a no-brainer from their standpoint, because I think whatever Warner wants to do, Discovery Warner wants to do, it's going to be in the best interest and what's going to get them subscribers on HBO Max and longevity of income. And that's another thing people need to look at. Because if they look at saying, look, we want something that's going to be 3, 4, 5 years or 2 years, you need to be able to schedule all of the crew, cast, everybody to be able to be there for all of that. Animation's a little easier. Animation, you can sit down, you can knock out, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 pages in a day of dialogue from the cast, while animation is going on over here. So that's why I get to this. Will the Snyderverse be restored? I think there is an avenue for it to happen. 100% there's an avenue for it to happen. But how will the Snyderverse be restored? And that's kind of the question that we can't answer right now. As I said, Zack is busy doing his own thing. The cast, they have their careers going on right now. I asked a question on Twitter, and this is what stemmed everybody, one of the things that stemmed people to get mad at me. If Zack agreed, if they came to Zack and said, look, we want to continue your universe, but we need to get it going now. The cast can do it, but they need to do it right now. And Zack's like, look, guys, I can't. I'm over here doing this. However, I sign off on Ben directing this, or I sign off on this person directing this. I'll write it. I'll produce it. I'm there if you need help. I asked that question, would that be okay? And fans who don't quite understand, thinking, oh, why would you even ask that question? It was more to gauge an understanding of where the fans sit in regards to the Snyderverse. I wanted to see for myself, is there any give and take, or is it all take from the fans? 99% of the people said, no, that is not the Snyderverse. The Snyderverse is Zack directing, writing, blah, 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 blah. If he gives his blessing, if he's involved every step of the way, that's just as much the Snyderverse as it would be if Zack was directing. People sit here and talk about the Ayer Cut of Suicide Squad being part of the Snyderverse. He didn't direct that, guys. He gave his blessing. He gave some story, but he didn't direct it. Then Wonder Woman, that came out back in 2017. Technically part of the Snyderverse. He didn't direct it, guys. He gave the story, and from some accounts, he did help with the action. But do you see what I mean? We all want the Snyderverse to continue. But there's so much divide because there's no understanding of what that means. And I'm not sitting here saying that we have to make a demand. Like, we want the Snyderverse and this is what we want. Because I don't think that's what we need. We need to say, look, Warner Brothers, Warner Media, whoever it is that supported and releasing the Snyder Cut, whoever it is, even if you didn't support it, Warner Brothers logo's on there. We know that it isn't as simple as saying thank you. But thank you. Thank you for releasing this cut. And with that, would you mind restoring the Snyderverse? We want to see Zack's vision completed. That's all we need to do. We don't need to go and demand, hey, restore the Snyderverse, but we want Batfleck's film or series. We want Justice League 1, 2, Justice League 3, Cyborg, Deathstroke, Joker, Harley Quinn. Oh, and 90% of it has to be written and or directed by Zack Snyder. No, we just have to sit there and say, look, thank you. You know what? For what you did. Suicide Squad, that Suicide Squad movie by James Gunn I'm not really into that. I'm not going to go check it out. But that Batman movie, that kind of looks interesting. So I'm excited for that. The Flash movie, you know what? I'm interested to see what they do with that. So I'm going to go see that. But we want more content on HBO Max. So can you restore the Snyderverse for us? Throw it on HBO Max. We'll be there for you guys. We're going to be there for you if you're there for us. Now, how do you put that into a single tweet? I don't know. But it's besides the point. The point is we need to get away from the bullying, the toxicity, the anger, the hatred that is pointed towards Warner Brothers. We know change is coming. And that's great. And I can't wait for the change because I think it's going to be great for Warner Brothers and the DC properties. But you got to remember, it's not all about DC with this merger. Zaslav has a whole bunch of IPs that he has to figure out what to do with, as well as merging the two companies together. And so much more. There's so much that he has to do. And to me, I don't think that it's going to go the way everybody wants. Yes, we all want the Snyderverse to continue, and I'm with you 100% on that. And I will promote unity, but I will never promote unity in the name of hate. Never. Because that's not what this movement was about. That's not what the Snyderverse is about. And personally, I know Snyder, he likes to keep his mouth shut. He does. But then he also likes to run his mouth from time to time. And I wish that he would come out and not necessarily take the lead on all of it, but I wish he would come out and say, look, I hear you. Warner Brothers hears you. But here's the thing. We need to show love for each other. We need to show unity with positivity. They have a plan at Warner Brothers. If what Snyder wants to do can ever happen, we know with 100% certainty that it is going to be Elseworlds. It's going to be its own thing. They are not going to cancel these other films and these plans for that. It's not going to happen. If the Flash fails, and I'm telling you this right now, if the Flash fails, you know what they do? They just don't make another Flash movie. And okay, well, that didn't work. So with some of these characters there that people did like, let's see what we can do here. And they'll just keep branching off and trying to go and figure out what works and what'll stick. We also have seen it already with Warner Brothers where they're green lighting things, putting them in production and getting them done before fans have even seen any bit of that universe. Peacemaker was done filming prior to the Suicide Squad coming out, which is a spinoff from there. Had they waited for the Suicide Squad to come out, they may have put a halt on doing a Peacemaker series, but they rushed it. And I think they understand, and they're doing that now because they need content for HBO Max. So they're trying to get things lined up, and they want to get it done. You have Gotham PD and now a Penguin series coming, spinning off of the Batman. All put into some sort of production, whether it's pre-production, whether it's just getting some stories made to see if they can make it happen before what it's spinning off of is even seen. So they're trying to get stuff done. So the more and more they do that, the less likely it is, or it's just not likely at all, that they're going to cancel everything. Say, all 15 projects we have, scrap those, bring Snyder back, bring everybody back, we're doing this. Because it's just not going to happen like that. It's just not. We wanted to, but it's not. I, for one, am excited for The Flash. I, for one, am excited about the Batman. I can't wait to see Shazam! Fury of Gods. I cannot wait to see Peacemaker. I mean, I'm not overly excited for it, but hey, whatever. It's content. Who would have thought 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that we would have a TV series based off of Peacemaker? I mean, come on. I think we need to get away from this. Give me, or take. And we need to get back in line of celebrating that these IPs are being used and being given to us in ways that we never thought possible. We need to celebrate that. We need to show positivity and get excited. I know a lot of people that I call friends in this community don't agree with me, but I can't help but see in this article here at Forbes, this article, I see it 100%. And it's a shame because so much potential, so much excitement, yet we get nothing because, well, we all want to be assholes. And that's the gist of it. A little controversial, maybe. Maybe I shouldn't be calling people assholes, but it's essentially what happened. And I'm not saying every single one of you. There's some amazing people out there. But to spam reviews, to spam tweets, to spam posts on other social medias, don't do it. You just prove Sarnoff. You prove Emmerich. You prove them right. You prove them right. They know they fucked up. They know they screwed up. But why would they want to give anything for people that act like that? Just look at it with your, if you have kids. You know, you tell your kids, like, hey, I'm going to take you to Chuck E. Cheese. And then they go, hey, thanks, yay, Chuck E. Cheese, yay. All excited. Chuck E. Cheese, that was a Snyder Cut. We got it. Yes, we're going to Chuck E. Cheese. So we go to Chuck E. Cheese. They're all happy. They're grateful. And we're in Chuck E. Cheese and we're having we're expected to have a great time. But then they start fighting, throwing pizza at each other, stealing kids' tickets. You know, everybody's there to have a good time. Everybody's excited about it, but they're in there stealing everything. They're in there, ruining the fun for everybody else. And what are the parents going to do? We're leaving. You don't know how to behave? You don't want to act right? We're getting out of this Chuck E. Cheese. And they have every right to do that. Well, that's my little analogy when it comes to the Snyderverse. Thank you all. If you've watched, if you stopped by, again, head to Spoilerverse.com for more from me, BridgingTheGeekdoms, Misery Point Radio, Nerdocalypse podcast is coming back. I'm real excited about that. Narrative Gunslingers, and the flagship show, Spoiler Country. Make sure you head there. Make sure you follow us on the Twits at BridgeGeekdoms. We also got a TikTok now, doing a lot of TikToks. Find us on the TikTok. Doing lists, doing theories, that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Maybe you guys can join in and do some stitching or whatever it's called. I don't know. But with all that said, guys, thank you for watching. And I hope, I got to do this one time. Hold on. This is for Colton. Colton's not here, so I got to do it for him.
Hello, Peter.
Peter. All right. So I'm heading out of here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. With all that said, I will catch all of you later.